Being an elementary school teacher, you're faced with different challenges, but one that's mainly overlooked is the classroom arrangement. In 2002, the Iris Center released a series of case studies, and the case study that I looked at consisted of a third grade student who was seated beside the chalkboard and couldn't get his assignments done. He either didn't do them or did them very poorly. And after the teacher drew out her room arrangement and noted where the student was seated, she noticed that that could have been an issue in his performance of his work. Um, the three strategies that you could use that the case study gave and suggested were to minimize the distractions. You could move that student from the chalkboard to the middle of the room or beside the teacher's desk, and he could possibly do better. Removing him from the board to the middle of the room would get him away from the board, make it where he can face the chalkboard, where he can see the assignment, where he's not having to turn his neck, or because turning your neck can get your neck turned to the board where you can see something out of the corner of your eye and get yourself very distracted really fast. Moving them to the middle of the room or beside your desk would be the better deal, I think, because you have control of them. Like, you can keep them on focus more, and they're going to be more apt to staying focused because you're right there and you're going to get onto them if they act up. The second strategy is to maximize access. Even though you're moving them to the middle of the room or you're moving them to your desk, allow them to be able to see the board still. Allow them to know where the box is for their papers to go when they turn them in. They can see that. They can see the clock. They can see out the window. Even though the window might be a distraction, they can still see, what's going on. Don't put them in a secluded area by themselves. Keep them still with the classmates, but if the student can't see the board directly, then they're not going to perform better. If they can't see the clock, they're not going to know how much time they have left to do their work. So just give them access to everything, even though you move them. And the third strategy is to match the room arrangement for the lesson purpose. For example, if you're in a science class, if you're teaching science to the class that day, and you're going to do a volcano experiment, you'll probably do the volcano on the carpet. Bring the student's desk around the carpet. Sit it in a semicircle. Have it ready for them when they come in, so that they're still sitting in their desk and they're still in the classroom setting, but they can still see the experiment, but the arrangement of the room can totally change the way that students act in the class and how they perform their work. In doing these things, the students' ability to get their daily work done will be greater, I think. If you move the student from the chalkboard to the middle of the room, they're going to not be distracted. They're not going to be touching the chalkboard and just getting into everything, because in the mornings, students are always hyper. If you keep them by the board, they're probably going to pick up a piece of chalk and write on the board and distract all of the students totally, because they'll probably write on the board and the other student's going to write on the board, which is going to create a domino effect. Don't get onto the student for touching the board. Just move their desk. It's a simple thing that most teachers do overlook. A teacher's favorite thing to do is to recommend medication for students for ADHD or ADD. But just simply moving their desk could be the thing that they need to change most. Medicating a student is not always the answer. Sometimes it is, but most of the time you could move them from the person that's distracting them. Move them away from the computer. Move them away from the chalkboard. Move them away from the bookshelf. Anything that distracts them that you think is an ADD problem could be prevented if you just move the seats. Also, if you just change the seating arrangements every month or every few weeks, so if there's something new and someone new to sit by and someone new to get to know, I think that would also increase students' abilities to make new friends and to do their work better, because if you're sitting by a different person every day, or not every day, but every week or every month, say, and you're sitting by a different person, you are going to want to do your work as good as them. And if they're doing good work, if you sit a poor performing student at a table full of high achievers, they're going to want to be like them, and they're going to want to do their work more. So that's the benefit of effective classroom arrangement.